All right, welcome. Today we are going to unpack the work of a real giant of sociology, Pierre Bourdieu. We're going to dive into his incredible ideas about all those invisible rules and forces that shape our lives, what we like, and even who we think we are. But let's start with a question, something we all do. Why do we make snap judgments about people based on their taste? Why does the fact that someone loves opera instead of pop music or drinks fancy wine instead of beer seem to say so much about them? This is exactly the kind of question Bourdieu helps us figure out. Now, to get to that answer, Bourdieu first had to solve a huge, long-running debate in sociology. On one side, you had thinkers who said, basically, we're puppets. Society is this massive structure, and it pulls our strings in ways we don't even realize. On the other side, you had people arguing the complete opposite, that we are the creators. We built society from the ground up with every single choice and conversation. So which is it? Are we puppets or are we free? So here's our roadmap for today. We'll see how Bourdieu solved that puzzle. Then we'll map out his idea of the social world. We'll talk about something he calls your feel for the game, get into the logic behind our tastes, and look at the constant struggle over meaning that's happening all around us. And finally, we'll wrap up with why this is so important to understand. Okay, so what was Bourdieu's big move? Well, his genius was that he just refused to pick a side. He thought that whole either-or debate, either we're controlled by structure or we're totally free, was just the wrong way to look at it. He wanted to build a bridge between the two. He called his solution constructivist structuralism. It sounds complicated, but the idea is actually pretty elegant. He's saying, yes, of course there are objective, real structures out there that limit us. But, and this is the key part, we are also actively involved in constructing and making sense of those structures through our own experiences. It's not one or the other. It's a constant dance between the two. To really get a handle on this, Bourdieu gives us this fantastic analogy. He says we should think of society as a giant, multidimensional game. And if you want to understand any game, you've got to know two things, right? You need to know what the game board looks like and what kind of chips you're playing with. So the game board for Bourdieu is what he calls social space. Now, this isn't a physical place. It's more like an invisible map of where everyone stands in relation to everyone else. Your position on this map is all about the resources you have. And here's the crucial insight. The closer people are to each other on this map, the more similar their lives are going to be. So what are these resources that place us on the map? Bourdieu calls them capital. These are the poker chips, the assets, the resources that are valuable in this social game. How many chips you have and what kind determines your exact spot on the board. And he was very clear that it's not just about money. Sure, there's economic capital. That's the obvious one. But there's also cultural capital. Think of that as your knowledge and skills, your education, the way you talk, knowing about art and literature. Then you've got social capital, which is basically your network. It's who you know. And finally, there's symbolic capital. This is a bit different. It's the prestige or recognition that makes your other chips seem valuable and legit in the first place. Okay, so we have a game board, social space, and we have our chips, our different types of capital. But that leaves a huge question. How do we know how to play? How do we know what moves to make? This brings us to probably Bourdieu's most famous and powerful idea. And that idea is the habitus. The best way to think about it is as your intuitive gut level feel for the game. It's not something you consciously think about. It's a whole system of dispositions that you've soaked up from living your life in a particular spot on that social map. It's the social game becoming your second nature, shaping how you see things, what you want, and what you do. This quote just nails the power of habitus. It's that sense of one's place. It's the reason social hierarchies can feel so natural, like people are just sorting themselves out. It's that internal voice that tells some people they don't belong in a fancy museum, while others walk in like they own the place. It's what makes us feel timid or entitled without a single word being spoken. So you can see this beautiful, clear chain of events. It starts with your position on the board, which is based on your capital. That position shapes all of your daily experiences. Those experiences get absorbed, they get internalized, and they become your habitus, your feel for the game. And finally, that habitus generates your practices, your lifestyle, your aspirations, and yes, your tastes. The objective world out there becomes your subjective intuition in here. And that brings us right back to where we started. Our taste, what we think is cool or beautiful or classy, is not just some random personal thing.
For Bourdieu, our taste is one of the clearest expressions of our habitus. This line is just so powerful. Think about it. Whenever you classify something, calling a movie brilliant or trash, calling a piece of furniture elegant or tacky, you're not just classifying the object. You are classifying yourself. You are broadcasting your own position, your own habitus to the world.
And we can see this play out in really concrete ways. Someone with a lot of cultural capital, like a university professor maybe, develops a habitus that values abstract appreciation. And so naturally, they're drawn to things like art museums and intellectual debates. But someone whose capital is mostly economic might develop a totally different habitus, one that values luxury and status. And that leads to a taste for expensive cars and exclusive clubs. And for each of them, their own taste feels completely natural, completely right.
Okay, so we're all out here playing the game, guided by our instincts. But Bourdieu says the ultimate power isn't just being good at playing the game. The real power is getting to decide what the rules of the game are in the first place. He calls this symbolic power. It's basically the power to make your view of the world the official view of the world. It's the ability to get everyone to agree that, say, a degree from a certain university is incredibly valuable, or that one way of speaking is proper and another is uneducated. It's the power to make the divisions in society seem like they're not divisions at all, but just the natural order of things. And this struggle over meaning, this battle of classification, is happening everywhere. You see it in everyday gossip and insults, you see it in big political battles over slogans and language, and it's at its most powerful when it's wielded by institutions like the state, which gets to hand out the official labels like educational degrees that define who is what.
So let's zoom out. What's the big takeaway from all of this? Why does understanding Bourdieu really matter? Well, it's because his work gives us a toolkit to see the invisible social structures that are operating in our own lives every single day. The reason the social world feels so normal and self-evident to us is because our very lens for seeing it, our habitus, was produced by that world. Our inner feelings and the outer structures are so perfectly matched that we don't even notice the structures are there. It all just feels like common sense.
And that leaves us with one final thought. Now that you have this framework, I want you to think about your own life. Can you identify one thing, your taste in music, in movies, in food, even in friends, that you always just assumed was a personal preference, but might actually be a product of your habitus, your own unique feel for the social game? It's a pretty fascinating question to sit with.